5 is finally in the books for college football, and this has been a crazy week, kind of more of the same. We know who's good and we know who's bad. It's starting to get watered out, starting with Penn State losing a big game. Shocker. You know how much hate comments I got from my Penn State video saying that they're destined to not be a national championship contender? I didn't even say Big Ten championship contender. I predicted them to win the Big Ten in my prediction video. I might be wrong about that. I just said they're not a national contender, that they have flaws like Drew Aller and James Franklin watering them down, and I got so many hate comments in that video. Just look at the comments. Well, I hope you guys are watching now after your pathetic team just lost by 6 again. Okay, let me cool down. It was all Oregon pretty early on, even when it was tied 3-3. They were moving the ball. Penn State wasn't. They were running the ball good, especially in the second half. And credit to the Oregon receivers. I thought that the Penn State secondary would lock down this young Oregon receivers. You obviously knew that Decoya Moore, he would get his targets, but a lot of those guys got open, and that's how Oregon got those yards. And for me to say that the Oregon receivers had a big impact, that must mean that Dante Moore, the young quarterback, was good. And yes, he played exceptionally well against this good Penn State defense. They didn't even play bad most of the game. But I think up front in the line of scrimmage, they were expected to be much better at stopping the run, and they couldn't stop the run for a big chunk of the second half, and that's how they really gave up a lot of points. And then later in the fourth quarter, the issue came from stopping the run to letting guys open in the secondary. I think it's just they give up too much stuff underneath, and also I think by how much they give up in the run, it kind of opened up the pass for Oregon. And Penn State, they could not do the latter when they were on offense. They got shut down the entire game. Penn State's a run-first team. When they can't run the ball, they're not able to move. And when they're a pass-first team, they're not good, because I thought Drew Aller in this Penn State offense going into the year would be able to stretch the ball down the field. Last year, I blamed it all on their wide receivers. They got new wide receivers this year. We thought, hey, maybe you can stretch the ball down the field. Nope. I think their offensive coordinator needs to get fired or something. It seems just like last year, those gimmicky trick plays, being very stubborn. You couldn't pass the ball at all, but then you finally got a deep one to Ross late in the game. But then, contrary to what I just said, they started running the ball, and it finally started working. They couldn't pass the ball earlier because of how bad their run game was. And when they did pass the ball, the pass call plays were terrible. When I'm saying they should have passed the ball downfield, I'm saying when they passed the ball, they should pass it downfield, not they should pass it more. Because running the ball was working. They ran the ball when they came back from a 17-3 lead, had 21 unanswered points. And then overtime happened. They got a touchdown, and then Oregon got a touchdown again. They gave up too much open space. They couldn't tackle. Their line of scrimmage isn't tough enough. I thought they'd be tough by now. And then typical late game Franklin happened. And then Drew Aller, just like his Notre Dame game, he picked right back where he left off, threw an interception into triple coverage. Wow. If you can somehow beat Ohio State, you can come back from this. But for them, I don't think you're beating Ohio State at Ohio State. I don't think anybody's beating Ohio State this year. But man, if you can somehow win that, then maybe you can have another chance at a top 10 matchup. But it's more the same. Great win for Oregon. I underestimated them. I thought it all came down to Dante Moore. He played very good, and Oregon comes out with the win. Next is Alabama and Georgia. More deja vu. Alabama owning Georgia. I really like how Alabama came back from the Florida State game. And the main thing in the Florida State game, I was shocked with how bad their line of scrimmage got dominated. And something like a bad offensive line can take seasons to fix. I thought there's no way you can be good without a good offensive line, right? Ask LSU, hint, hint. And I thought because of how bad their offensive line looked, that it would be no chance. They couldn't get the run game going. And even though their quarterback early in the season, he looked okay, Simpson, I thought, hey, maybe if he's getting pressured every play and they can't run the ball and they're one-dimensional, even with these great wide receivers, you can't pass it. But if their offensive line ever did fight to the test and gave Simpson time to throw, and then if Simpson stepped up and did his job, this offense could do a lot of stuff. They have a lot of weapons. Jim Miller came back, a lot of great wide receivers. And this Georgia defense isn't as stout as it used to be. They stopped the run pretty well, but every once in a while they give up a big run. In college football, all you need is a couple of good plays and it's a first down. And then the pass, they just let Ty Simpson just dice him apart, and I think it's because he had time to throw. They won the line of scrimmage on offense, and Georgia, the only reason they beat Tennessee is because they won the line of scrimmage on both ends of the field. They didn't have a bunch of big plays against Tennessee in the pass game, except for late, but they won both the line of scrimmage, which opened up a bunch of stuff. Alabama won the line of scrimmage on offense in the first half, and Simpson looked really good. They got out to a 17-14 lead, but on the other side, Georgia was winning the line of scrimmage on offense consistently, or Georgia just couldn't pass the ball, but they had a bunch of big running plays, so it didn't matter. But some of those turnovers that they had and miscues led to Alabama having a double-digit lead in a game where both offenses scoring. In a game like this, you think going down by 2 possessions is big, and it was. In the second half, there was a total of 7 points scored, and Georgia did continue to move the ball sort of nicely to the ground, but you got to know that in college football, being one-dimensional doesn't work. Maybe it works against a team like Tennessee, because you can't pass the ball downfield except for screens. If you're Georgia, you couldn't do it. You just couldn't. And against Tennessee, the only reason why they broke out late in the game was because they were so dominant running the ball. That wouldn't work against Alabama. Sure, they were really good running the ball and they had a bunch of explosive plays, but against a team so good like Alabama, if you start to run the ball like that, especially against that vaunted defensive front of Alabama that's a lot better than they are in recent years, they're going to get stopped, and then you're going to force John Stockton to throw. They had to force him to throw, and it didn't work. They tried a bunch of stuff. They tried to get creative, but a lot of stuff was just short passes to the sideline. But then they'd keep running the ball after that, and they'd get some first downs running short. But if you keep running the ball, you're going to get stopped eventually. And notice how I said eventually. Georgia, in the second half, moved the ball to midfield a lot. They had a lot of positive offensive drives. But by the end of the drive, the defense starts to recognize, hey, maybe they're going to run the ball. Their passing is predictable. And by the end, they just couldn't run it at their throats forever. Alabama made some big fourth down stops. In the second half, Alabama's offense didn't even score a single point. I would be a little bit concerned, even though it's against a really good Georgia defense that isn't as stout as it used to be. But I would be just a little bit concerned because part of the reason why you'd be so excited if you're an Alabama fan is because of how good the passing game looked. And even though the running game didn't look amazing, you know it's going to be good enough because they have all these good wide receivers. And Simpson looked really, really good. I would be really excited for that. And same with the offensive line, like I obviously said. But in the second half, their offensive line still kind of held up. It's just Georgia's coverage got better. Against Tennessee, they struggled a little bit. And even though Georgia always is going to have good linebackers and defensive line, they couldn't get pressure, which exposed more of their coverage in the first half against Alabama. But then Simpson started to make some bad passes, and they couldn't get some guys open. And they ended up winning the game barely because they got some key first down runs and some mental mistakes by Georgia in this big game. But I would be a bit concerned if he continues to pass bad like this, because the reason why Alabama's offense was looking so good was because of the turnover and because of just how much he was picking apart Georgia's kind of weak secondary this season based off the time he had to throw. But if Alabama's offensive line keeps playing like this, you can afford Simpson to struggle. And I think if their offensive line keeps playing this good, Simpson will be allowed to get away with a couple of miscues, unlike the second half of this game, because you're not going to face a better defense than Georgia in the SEC besides LSU. And they barely won, but Georgia, you need to be more than one-dimensional offense, but it all stays the same. You both still control their own destiny. This is a wide-open conference. If Texas A&M can win the SEC, you know it's wide open. Speaking of Texas A&M, 16-10, a boring game versus Auburn, but this is the most pathetic team of the week, Auburn. I watched a lot of Auburn this year. Their defense has put on a show. They have 5 good offensive line. They're really good. And this is against a Texas A&M team that scored 41 and your defense putting on a clinic. The only touchdown of the day was your defense forcing a turnover and getting it to the goal line. And Jackson Arnold, I know part of the reason why they can't get the pass game going when they do have time to throw is because Arnold, he can't make that elite play in the field. And sure, maybe if they had an elite quarterback, they could maybe have a couple more big plays, maybe score 1 or 2 more touchdowns in a game that can make a difference. But for the most part, you can't put this on Jackson Arnold. Because with a defense that's this good, this legendary, they put their heart on the line, you expect their offense to at least score 1 damn touchdown by themselves. But nope, that offensive line is so bad. I read in magazines, I said, I think Auburn's going to be decent this year because the offensive line's experienced with all those good wide receivers. It doesn't matter how good wide receivers you have if your offensive line can't block a damn thing. Like, what are you doing? This is terrible. Absolutely terrible job by Auburn's offensive line. 7 sacks. 7. I keep saying it doesn't matter how good of a defense you have, how good of skill position guys you have. If you have a bad offensive line, you're not going to be able to contend. Look at Bama. They had their offensive line performed, and then they can move the ball. This time they can't, and it's not even like Texas A&M's offense was that bad. They moved the ball. Michael Craver is really good. Sure, I'd worried about Marcel Reed's accuracy a little bit. I know this Auburn defense is really good, but there's even better defenses in this vaunted SEC league. So I'd worry maybe if Marcel Reed can't make those throws against those teams, they'd lose that and they'd lose out on their SEC championship odds. But come on, I think this Auburn defense has played really good and moved the ball enough to beat them. It should have been 16-3, really. and they missed a field goal too. But you need to score more than that, Auburn. Giving up that many sacks. Change something on this offensive line, especially change out Chaplin. And 16-10. Pathetic, Auburn. Pathetic. And before I move on, I'm going to say, how is it fair? I know it's a schedule and everything, but how is it fair that Auburn has to play a bunch of their teams on the road to start the season? They played Baylor on the road, out of conference. They played Oklahoma on the road, and now they're playing A&M on the road. Like, come on. Next game, I had a feeling about this, LSU Ole Miss. I said in my reacting to AP poll video that LSU could be overrated due to their bad offensive line. And I thought, hey, they have a good quarterback and good wide receivers, so they could be kind of like the Bengals are in the NFL. They had a bad offensive line, but hey, they have a good enough quarterback and running back to move the ball. Well, apparently their quarterback's not even good enough, because when Nussmeier is very underwhelming, that's not good, because he needs to be very good in this already weak LSU offense if they want a chance to contend this year. A chance to contend. And this Ole Miss defense really stepped it up too. They covered their guys pretty well. Sure, Florida and Clemson are sort of talented, but they don't have the talent gap that Ole Miss has. Ole Miss is a lot more talented. And even though they had flaws in their offense, obviously with giving up pressure and stuff to these not very good defenses, and in this one it was also a problem too. They just couldn't move the ball. Their offense is so bad. It kind of got outmatched because their wide receivers could outplay their secondary. Same on the other side with LSU secondary against the other team's wide receivers. They could force turnovers. They could just sack them, and they could overlook some of the weaknesses of them not being sound in their defense. But this time, we played a team with relatively same skill level. Ole Miss did their job and they covered well. And even when those guys open, Nussmeier did very bad. I'm going to say it again. This LSU offense is so bad that it doesn't matter how good your defense is against teams that have just a good enough offense. Just a good enough offense. When you're not playing, damn, Florida and Billy Napier's inept offense, and damn, Clemson, yeah, you might struggle like that. They could have lost by more. Ole Miss was in control the entire game. I'm just going to say, if Nussmeier can't even play good, because I think even if Nussmeier plays good, they win this game, but that should have won this game by a lot, LSU on paper, because Ole Miss is good, but they're not that good. This is not even as good of an Ole Miss team as they have been in the past. So I feel like LSU should have won this game by a lot, but they just played horribly. So even if Nussmeier plays good, you'd still barely beat this team. And that's not good. This offense would still only have around 25 points if Nussmeier played good, because this offensive line is just so bad. Don't give me the injury excuse, because they weren't that good against Clemson either, and Clemson's defensive line isn't as good as we would really think they would be. And this is against an Ole Miss defensive line that we placed a lot. LSU offense is so bad that it doesn't matter how good your defense plays. Shout out to the Ferris State here from Michigan, quarterback from Ole Miss. If you're allowing that on defense, yeah, maybe that's a problem. This LSU team needs to fix their offensive line so they can run the ball. They're one-dimensional just like Georgia, except Georgia has talented teams. They can win the trenches, so even if they can just run the ball and occasionally have a good pass, they're fine with that because they can run the ball so good and their offensive line is good. LSU doesn't have a good offensive line, so it's just full offensive ineptitude every single game. And if your defense even falters, this is one of the teams that relies on elite defense so much, kind of like Michigan last year, that if their defense falters for even a little bit, they lose by a lot. They could get blown out by a team like Alabama or Texas A&M that has an elite high-scoring offense, and how are they going to keep pace? This offense has the pace of a snail. They have good wide receivers, but when they're facing a team that has similar talents in the secondary, they can't win. They beat Clemson closely because they forced turnovers and because their wide receivers are so much more athletic than Clemson's cornerbacks because they had the talent gap. But against a team like Ole Miss, they can't do that. And when they're matched up at the skill positions, talent-wise equally, they can't win on the line of scrimmage either because their offensive line is terrible. This team, I'm still going to say, they can still compete with anybody because their defense is so good. But that offense needs to do better. It's not Auburn level bad, it still has potential, which is why I still think they can compete in the SEC this year. But if they don't fix that offense, it's going to be real bad. And unless that LSU defense plays like they did against Clemson and Florida all the time, and not like this, then if they don't do that, then they're in for a long year. It's a gutsy win by Ole Miss, though, too. But I'm just going to say that LSU couldn't outmuscle them at the skill position to make up for their bad offensive line. And because of that, they still would have scored a lot lower points than they want to anyway against this Ole Miss defense that's not even that good. But it didn't get helped by the fact that Nussmeier played terribly. That's why they lost. Good win by Ole Miss, but I think this is more just LSU having an inept offense. And finally, the game of the week. USC and Illinois. Same old Lincoln Riley defense. Can't cover guys for crap and can't tackle. In the first half, it was just you couldn't stop the run. And that's bad coaching if your people are just running the same exact plays and you can't stop them. That's just bad coaching. And USC's defense has always plagued them. Lincoln Riley's defense has always plagued them. They just dominated on the line of scrimmage and they didn't make adjustments. I think the big problem with Lincoln Riley is he doesn't make adjustments. This was a back and forth affair with turnovers aplenty, but big plays aplenty too. But every single time Illinois had the ball, they could just run at the throw. USC's undersized and young at their defensive line, but we thought it would be better. It's basically the opposite of what they were against Indiana. They allowed 7 sacks, Illinois did, and they couldn't get any pressure. This time they pressured USC, even though they had a talent disadvantage. They just ran the ball at their throats and they couldn't stop them. And then in the second half, USC had a random spark and they gave the USC quarterback time to throw. They finally gave him time to throw because the trenches and the little stuff and I guess coverage is what hurts USC. They obviously have talent all around them, just like these SEC teams. And if everything clicks late in the game did, they can obviously do really good. Mekhi Lemon, first round pick, what a guy. Their quarterback can definitely play good. And their running back, he can find the hole. He's a pretty good running back. But they do bad at the little things. They do bad at tackling, which doesn't work good against this, I have to admit, mentally tough Illinois team. They're bad at stopping the run. They're bad at blocking. They're bad at penalties. And a lot of it in a big game like this is why Illinois won. Illinois is not even that good, so I still don't think they're that good. It's still a good win after getting blown out. But I think they're so outmatched talent-wise, but because they won the line of scrimmage after they got destroyed last week by Indiana, and because USC just fails fundamentally, that's why Illinois won 32-31. And I don't know why. Why did USC score with 2 minutes left? Why didn't they run a couple plays before a big play? If your defense can't stop anything, and they're getting run at in the middle of the field, and their throats run out of, then why do a big pass right away with 2 minutes left? Why? Good bounce back win by Illinois. If their offensive line can continue to play like this, watch out. But I still don't think they have the pass. Even though they had 300 yards passing, I think that was just how bad Illinois' secondary was. They didn't even have any deep passes. It was just dump downs, and then you see can't get guys in the open field. The kicker for me is that it's not even like Illinois trying anything new. Sure, they had a lot more passing yards in the second half, but that's not because of their new game plan. It's just the plays that they were already running in the first half started to work because USC's defense got tired and because they cannot make adjustments. USC, they kept having runs up the middle. Oh, we can't run. We're going to have a bunch of light people, like Joe Class had a light box and barely putting anybody up there, and our weak defensive tackles can't stop the run up the middle. Oh, but when they do pass, even when it's obvious passing downs, which there wasn't much of, oh, there's cornerback injuries, and we have this one scrub who keeps getting burnt, and we have all these guys that keep getting burnt in open space, and when there is guys in the open space, oh, we miss a tackle, and then repeat that and repeat that. You don't change your coverage once. Not once do you change your coverage, not once do you change your line of scrimmage, scheme, and package. You allow them to run the football on you. You'll miss tackles. It was a great game, and the only reason it was a big game was because USC obviously has the talent gap on offense, and because Mekhi Lemon is a god. They're 140-something receiving yards. It was a great game. Gutsy try by USC. I like their players. They have good quarterbacks. Their offensive line is healthy. His defense is decent, but not today. And they have amazing wide receivers. Lane was obviously not in full effect today. But that defense, man, it's same old, just like when he was at Oklahoma. You need to be able to win the line of scrimmage, and this is not going to get any easier. I think they're going to get destroyed when they have to play against Michigan, a team that likes to run the ball and who has a much more formidable defensive line than Illinois, because this isn't even really that good of an Illinois defensive line and offensive line. They struggled like hell against Indiana last week, and Indiana only beat Iowa by 5. Maybe Indiana really is that good, and Illinois is a good team, and Indiana is just amazing, but I highly doubt that. I just think that USC has issues, toughness on the line of scrimmage so bad that even against the worst of teams, it shows. And it doesn't get easier for USC either. They have to play Oregon, still they have to play Michigan, and they have to play Notre Dame. But that is a good one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really sorry I missed last week. I had it recorded, but I didn't edit it. Let me know what you guys want to do next. Please subscribe. It really, really helps me out. And, yep, God bless.